Worship leaders, have you ever left a rehearsal feeling frustrated that you had a musical idea that you wanted to get across, but you couldn't? You couldn't make yourself understood to your band and you just confused everybody? Well, let's talk about it. Maybe we can do better. Welcome to Blueprint Sounds. My name is Nathan Smith. I'm here to help worship leaders improve their worship team in all aspects, the musical aspect, the relational aspect, and in technology. So today's topic is stop confusing your band. I see this a lot, and I've been a part of it a lot, where you had an idea, you wanted to give something to your band. Okay, this is a new song that we're working on. Here we go, everybody. And the band doesn't follow. The band doesn't understand what you want. You don't have the language for it. Can you play it more yellow? Doesn't make any sense to your electric guitar player. And everybody is just talking more than they're playing, which is never a good place to be in your rehearsal, where you're talking about playing music rather than playing music. Wouldn't it be better if you had some sort of language that everybody understood what you were talking about and what you were asking for? And then they did it, and then you had a great, efficient practice that people had fun and they weren't upset with each other. That would be the best case scenario, right? Here's how you can do it. Here's the tip. There are 5 musical elements that create a full-sounding modern worship team. And if you have those 5 elements, and more importantly, if everybody on your team knows which element they're providing, it makes the job so much easier, because everybody does their job. They know what the job is. They know what is expected of them. And then when they leave, they're like, yeah, no, that was my job. I knew what I was supposed to do. If I'm going to listen to the album to practice, I know what my role is. Here are the 5 elements of a full-sounding worship team. Number 1, the main groove. Number 2, the main rhythmic instrument. Number 3, holds. Don't worry, I'll explain all this. Number 4, pads. And number 5, arpeggios. Let's take them one at a time. First is the main groove. So the groove of a song is the rhythmic fingerprint that is the underlay. It's the floor of the entire band. A great musical example of this is Queen's "We Will Rock You." If I go stomp, stomp, clap, everybody knows what's coming, right? Freddie Mercury is going to start singing over the top of it, and that's all of the song, except for the guitar solo at the end. It is a groove, and it is a melody. That's it. And yet it's so iconic, it gets underneath your skin. Everybody knows that groove. Well, that's what a groove is. Usually it's taken care of by the kick drum. So in the case of "We Will Rock You," you hear kick, kick, snare, kick, kick, snare, right? That's the main part of it. Now, in a worship song that has more layers, the bass player will often match what the kick drum is doing. Doesn't mean that the bass player can't do more, but those two things have to be locked in place together. So whatever the pattern of the kick drum is, the bass player needs to be playing that. When those two things are together, that comprises what we call the groove of the song. Then everything else gets built up on top of that solid foundation. So, if you're having a hard time, if something doesn't seem right in your song, but you can't quite pinpoint it, go to the chorus and go down all the way to the drums and the bass and listen to it. Does it sound like the album? Well, if it doesn't, there might be an issue there that needs resolving. That's step 1. That's the first thing that you look at. Next, the main rhythmic instrument. Now, if you lead from piano or if you lead from acoustic guitar, 9 times out of 10, you are probably the main rhythmic instrument, right? Maybe not, but oftentimes the main rhythm is going to be provided by the acoustic guitar or the piano. And that acoustic, especially, on a typical worship song, you're strumming a lot. You're providing all of those extra rhythms, all of those 8th notes or 16th notes in between the big rhythms, the big, 1, 2, 3, 4, that propels the song forward, right? That's why, if it's just a guy with an acoustic guitar, it sort of works, because at least we have that main rhythmic instrument. That's number 2. Number 3 is called holds. And holds are just whole notes, or maybe whole notes plus some extra rhythm. That can be done by a lot of different instruments. Often the piano, if it has a very warm sound and the piano has a lot of sustain, so it's really good at whole notes, would do that. Or an electric piano or an electric guitar doing power chords and like just hit that chord with distortion and let it ring, right? That's another way to get holds. You could even have the acoustic guitar hit a chord and let it ring if the piano is a little bit busier. What that provides is thickness, right? It's not the main rhythm. It probably shouldn't be the main rhythm because that would be too many rhythms clashing, and chances are you're not going to have two musicians that can play perfectly in time with one another unless they're, super professionals. It's better to have complementary rhythms rather than competing rhythms. So you might have the main rhythm doing his thing, but then you would have another rhythmic instrument, but it's just providing the sustain and the thickener, and it just fills out the mid-range of the sound. So that's holds. Next is pads. Pads is the broad umbrella of anything that is a long droning tone. So that could be synths, that could be strings like a cello or a violin, that could be an organ sound on a piano, that could even be an extra layer on a piano, where maybe the piano player is doing holds, but they have another layer that's the string effect that goes beyond that. So maybe one instrument is doing two sounds. But in either case, the point of the pads is to be a relatively thin sounding instrument. Not that synths can't be big and thick and huge, but it's relatively thin and it's relatively uncomplicated harmonically. So if I'm playing a big G chord on my acoustic guitar, if I'm a piano player playing organ or if I'm playing synths, I'm not going to play all three fingers on a G chord, G, B, D. I'd probably take out the middle one and just do a G and a D. A thinner sound is better for pads because it's sort of this angelic, just this beautiful little mist that is happening during the song. It doesn't move a lot, but it provides that feeling of, that angelic, ooh, there's something happening up there that really, really rounds out the sound very nicely. And finally, number 5, arpeggios. Arpeggios sounds very fancy. All it is a chord played one note at a time. So if I have a G chord and I've got, 3 notes, G, B, D, the arpeggio would be G, B, D, played one note at a time rather than struck all together. This could be done by any instrument that can play a pitch, right? Violin, cello, flute, doesn't matter. But in a modern worship context, a lot of times the electric guitar gets that job. The electric guitar with some delay on it and some reverb, playing those notes one at a time, when you add that delay, it thickens and lengthens that sound, and you get this beautiful polish and shimmer that you didn't have before. Arpeggios really provide another melodic element that really can make a song sound produced in a good way, not in a bad way. But it gives it that extra thing that's like, ooh, before we were all just kind of holding chords. We've got the holds, we've got the pads. We didn't have any of that sparkle. That's what arpeggios do, is they provide sparkle on the top end. Again, piano could do that. Just think Coldplay and all of those arpeggios that Chris Martin is doing. That could be done by any instrument, but the electric guitar and the piano are really good for those arpeggios. Those are your 5 elements. So here's what you're going to do as a worship leader. Let's say you've got a song that you want to introduce to the band or one that you think could be better. Go back and listen to the song all the way through. Put headphones on or on a good system where you can hear the bass really prominently, and you're going to listen for each one of those elements. So you're going to listen to, you might skip the first verse because the first verse, oftentimes the groove isn't in full. But if you were under a time crunch, what would you listen to? You would listen to the second verse and the chorus of a song. You're going to listen first all the way down to the bass and the drums. You'll be like, okay, what is the groove? It helps if you know a little bit about drums and you know what the elements are. But even knowing, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or this is what I'm supposed to be hearing. As far as the kick pattern and the bass, that's step one. All right, now listen again and listen to the main rhythmic instrument. Could be piano, could be acoustic guitar. If you're leading from one of those instruments, you'll probably be either the holds or the main rhythm. Listen again. Now you're listening just for the holds. Who's providing that? Is it an electric guitar on power chords? Is it a nice warm piano sound? Is it the acoustic hitting chords and letting them ring? Make a note of that. Listen again. Now you're listening up for pads, right? So is that a synth sound? Is that an organ sound? Are those strings that I'm hearing? Oftentimes in albums, they cheat and they've got a lot of layers. So you probably are going to have to pick what's the thing that I need the most and what can I live without? And then finally, the arpeggios. What is that little sparkly thing? Is that an electric guitar that's doing arpeggios? Is it piano driven? Is it descending arpeggio line on the piano? Who is providing that polish on top? Now, let's say that you have a smaller worship team. You might not have 5 instruments. Well, that's okay. You don't need all of those elements, but you do need the most important ones. You have to have the groove. So if you've got a drummer and a bass player, or even just a bass player, or even just a cajon, you've got to make sure that that groove is solid. And then, of course, you need your main rhythmic instrument. Then, when it comes to getting together with your band, you say, hey guys, let's listen to a little bit or all of the song and point out what element is which and who is expected to do what job. Once people get the idea, oh, I'm holds, all right, I'm going to hit the chord and let it go, then they know what their job is. Then you don't have that thing that so often happens where you have the piano player just banging away, doing all of that he can, while the rhythmic guitar is doing all that he can, and then the electric guitar is playing open chords like he's an acoustic guitar player. And you have all of these elements. Everybody is doing the exact same thing. Everybody is trying to be the main rhythmic instrument, thinking they're helping, and they're absolutely not helping. The better thing to do would be to create space by saying, for this song, this person's main rhythm, this person is the holds, this person is the arpeggios. That kind of language, that kind of divvying out of roles makes everybody's life easier because hopefully not only can they play their part, but they're going to start listening to what everybody else is doing and start appreciating the way that the elements come together to create a full sound, not just worried about their own thing. That is a world of difference. Everybody just playing their instruments at the same time, not caring or not knowing what the other elements are for, is awful. And we've all heard those live streams or been to those church services. But a team that knows what their job is and knows what everybody else's job is and stays in their lane or can move around and do the element that's needed at the proper time, that is, you want to play in that band. And if you're looking for extra members, when people hear that in a group, they're like, oh, I want to be a part of that band because they know what they're doing. So that's the tip. To recap, you've got 5 musical elements that you want in your band. The groove, the main rhythmic instrument, holds, pads, and arpeggios. If you know what those 5 elements are, and you can tell your band clearly, hey, this is what we're looking for, this is what everybody's job is, let's go, you're going to have a better practice, a better actual service, and everyone's going to leave happy knowing that they did their job because they knew what their job was in the first place. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope that helps you. If you'd like to watch more videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or go to blueprintsounds.com. Actually, there's a free gift that I have for you there. It's called 23 Things Every Worship and Tech Team Should Hear. It's filled with good advice like this, stuff that somebody probably should have told you years ago, but here it is. All you have to do is just type in your email so that I can get a hold of you if there are new products or there are new videos as they become available. All right. Thanks, God bless, and goodbye.